Today we're ranking the 29 games that I played over the summer. If you missed it, last week on the channel, I put out another edition of New Gamers Rank New Games, where I got 3 of my good friends, my castmates from the summer theater contract that I was on, to rank all of their games that we played together. They had a list of like 9 to 13, depending upon the person. And that was fun. And I was really happy to sit down with them and just chat and have a debrief and see what they enjoyed. And now I figured I would share my own personal ranking of all the games that I played across the board this summer. So to contextualize it, I played games with sort of 3 major groups of people. I was out of my house, I wasn't in Toronto, so I wasn't with my regular gaming group, and I was either playing games with members of my cast that I was doing a theater show with. They were gung-ho to learn a bunch of new games, and we had a lot of gamers in the cast. We had a lot of people who were both very enthusiastic or already knew a lot about the board gaming hobby. I was also playing with my girlfriend Renee and her parents and her family, and generally those games are of the simpler side of things. And then I was playing a decent amount of party games, I'd say, and some cottagey style games. And so that's kind of the broad span, the broad width of games that I played over the course of the summer. But I'm really excited to talk about a lot of them, and I enjoyed my time with all of these 29 for all various ways. Of course, you can rank them and you can say, that wasn't so good. That wasn't great because of this and these reasons. But there are things that I quite enjoyed about all of these, including number 29. Let's get right into it. Number 29 being Skip Bow. This is the first time I've ever played Skip Bow. And in fact, according to my app, I played Skip Bow 6 times. I'm sure it was more than that. I'm sure I just only recorded it 6 times. This is a game that my girlfriend's folks and family really enjoyed playing because it's easy to play. You can play it also with her nephew of 5 years old. And it's very simple. I don't think I'm going to explain all the games on this list, but I'll try to give you, I probably will, but that would make it pretty long. But I'll try to give you a sense. There's these 4 piles in the middle, and you can play cards off of your pile in ascending order, and you're trying to get your own pile of like 30 cards into the middle. It's like very slow Dutch Blitz. And while it was enjoyable, it's really basic and boring. Like, you can have fun with it because you're not doing anything. And although there's another game on this list that you're really not doing anything that's a bit higher. But it just, like, in terms of what I'm interested in, modern board gaming standards, it falls at the worst because it's pretty random. There's not much control you can have in your hand. It's all really depending upon the cards that you draw. And I'd much rather play other card games as well. It was the least interesting of all the card games that we played, but we did play it. And we played it a lot. And I was able to still have fun with it because I was hanging out with people and I was relaxing in those times. And that was a nice thing. Moving along to number 28. Renee probably won't be happy about this for me, but I actually enjoyed this more than I generally do. I'm not a huge fan of tiny towns, I don't think. There's something about it that just, like, it should really hit with me, but spatially it just doesn't really interest me. I think because you can see a board here, you're calling out a color and then everybody's putting that color on their board, and I feel like it either falls into everybody's doing the same thing and so there isn't that much variance, or the special buildings that everybody has to make things unique. Nobody really wants to invest the time building them because there's a clear path, or there's a clear path, right? And that's why everybody's kind of doing the same thing. It's easy to kind of optimize and think, what's the best way to do things? And so I've never been a huge fan of tiny towns, but I'm happy to play it. But I just think all the other games that I ended up playing I had more fun with. I didn't even remember that I played tiny towns. I saw it on the app and I thought, oh, hey Renee, did you play that with your mom? And I just recorded it. She said, no, you were there. You played it with us. And I actually do remember. And I actually remember having probably one of my favorite games of Tiny Towns that I've played because I got a sweet bank and I felt really good. But it just is, I don't know, it doesn't really hit that well with me. I think it would be on the chopping block to go if Renee didn't enjoy it. Sorry. But it beat Skip Bow. Didn't beat 45s though. It doesn't beat 45s. Well, there's something about 45s when you win it. 45 is pretty high, and the 45 is in the next one. This one might be a little bit unfair, but this is Azul Stained Glass of Sintra. I don't know. I think it's a testament to this list. I think, like, it being low on the list isn't a bad thing. It got played. Like, there were a lot of other games that I brought that didn't get played, and I think that's a testament to the strength of these games and how good they actually are. Well, really, the things that I was supposed to review didn't get played. That's the thing. I played 29 games, Renee, and I only brought 23. So what does that tell you? That tells you that I got games while I was there. Yeah, Azul is a fantastic game. I like Stained Glass's Sintra. I don't know. I used to always say that I like it more than Base Azul. We played it at 4. I think I like Base Azul more at 4, and I like this more at 2. The issue here that I ran into, which was a bit frustrating and made me enjoy it a little bit less, was that we ran out of pieces for like 3 rounds. And so generally if you run out of pieces, you just don't fill up the factories. But we had so many pieces on our boards that the factories didn't get filled up. And that was kind of interesting to see, but it also made the game go a little bit quicker than I necessarily wanted it to. And I think that's what makes it go down to number 27. Number 26 is Skull. Skull is a party game of bluffing. I have this edition as well, which has this lovely art. Oh, it's actually right behind my head. There you go. That's a skull. See, I proved it. I played it. Skull is very simple. On your turn, you put down a coaster, and then you can you can say a number. And so you're bidding the number of coasters you think you can flip over before flipping over a skull. Very simple premise. Very good bluffing game. I brought it because it's like good for outside. Played it in a variety of different circumstances, which was great. Because I played it with the cast, played it with parents, really worked well for those. But I think with Skull, and I said this, I put out a review of it over the course, I think it's absolutely a game to own and to put into your travel bag. But I also think you need the group of people that you're with to buy in. And I think I saw people buy in, and I saw people not buy in. Mostly we bought in, though, and it was definitely still pretty fun. But there are other social deduction and bluffing games and those style of games that I would much prefer to play, and they'll be coming up fairly soon. Next up, we have this game called 45s. Now, this is a very dumb game. It's not a good game. It's like objectively not a good game. I think Skip Boat might be a better game. Or at least this isn't a good game in the way that I was taught it, because how I was taught it is that you don't have to follow suit. Unless it's Trump. But if it's also Trump, you can hold back the 5 of Trump. Or the Jack of Heart. Or the Jack of Trump. Unless the 5 of Trump's been played. Because of course, and this is how I was taught it, we were taught it manically by Renee's stepdad, Paul, who was like, oh no, all you need to remember is black is low, red is high. It goes 5 of Trump, Jack of Trump, Ace of Hearts, Ace of Trump, King, Queen, then black is high, black is low, red is high. And then he taught us like the game for 5 minutes, and we didn't even realize that they were partners until those 5 minutes had passed. And then you also don't have to follow suit. So you don't have to follow suit. So you make a bid about how many tricks you think you can win, and you have 5 cards in your hand. And then you basically throw away all those cards to get all the Trump, keeping the Trump that you have. Because since you don't have to follow suit, every other card is garbage. So you're basically just like throwing away cards to try to get Trump, which you do have to follow suit for. And you can play anytime you want, regardless of what suit is led. Every trick is worth 5 points, except if you happen to draw the 5 or the highest Trump that's played, that's worth 10 points. So if you just have that card in your hand, you're like, well, I can at least win 10 points. I guess I'll bet 15. First person to 100, first team to 120 points wins. We play this game so much with Renee's parents, and myself and her mother win every time. We win every single time. And that's probably why it's a little bit higher. Like, objectively, it's not a good game. But I know that if I just keep bidding 30, either Paul will bid 30 and he won't make it and he'll go down, or I'll go so far into the negatives and then just crawl my way back up in order to stop somebody from getting to that 120. There's my strategy, and I can say it outright, even though Renee's over there, because Paul will never not take the bait. Or, the moment he doesn't, that's when we win the game. Yeah, we have a pair of sensible people versus 2 rogue agents. And so maybe that's why it makes it fun, but in no circumstances do I suggest playing this game or this card game to have a good time in terms of a partner card game. Absolutely not. Play bridge, play euchre. It's a horrible game, but I was able to still have a good time with it. And it's one of Paul's favorite games. So there you go. That's why it's up so far. At number 25. Number 24 is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. This actually was Renee's nephew, who's 5.
He's 7.
He's 7. He's 7. I'm going to call him 5. For this whole video.
Going in grade 2.
Well, you never know how old they are these days. He's going
like super tall.
It's because you showed me the picture of him when you're like, hey, look at him when he was 5. So that's why I had that number in my head. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. He's 7, and he loves this game. This was his favorite game in the summer, which was cool. He also loved Skull as a 7-year-old, and he also quite enjoyed... Oh, that's not even in here, but we played that. Psychic Pizza Deliverers Go to a Ghost Town. Looks like it's a top 30. Yeah, clearly I didn't write that one down. Okay, we've got a new 24. It's Psychic Pizza Deliverers Go to a Ghost Town. I also prefer One Night Werewolf over this, but this is still a fun one, and I think I would put it here as well. It's such a unique, stupid game. One of you plays the mayor of Ghost Town, and you have this grid of stuff out there, and the goal of the game is for the other players, the mayor kind of moderates the game, which I usually do, or Renee's nephew, again, who's 7 and not 5, like she was saying. Anyway, the goal is to navigate your own map blindly, walking up and down. So if I was this red character, I would move up, and then I'd be told that there was a fence to my north, and then that around me, there's one ghost somewhere. And so the goal is to get to a pizza, and then a house will materialize upon the board, and then get to that house and deliver the pizza. You're just wandering aimlessly, trying to deduce the map and figure out where you are. Definitely a fun little game. Solid 24. Or no, 25. Yeah, 25. And then 24, One Night retains its spot. One Night Werewolf we played a lot of. It's so easy to play a bunch of rounds. And so we played it as like a 3-player game, sometimes a 4-player game, but really just a 3-player game. Myself, Renee, and her nephew, who again is 7. And he loved it. He loved figuring out the deduction. He loved figuring out when to be sneaky and when to lie and when to say, oh no, I was the werewolf. And so like it's a great game for kids. I've seen it work really well for kids. And then I also played this with my cast, and they enjoyed it as well. So a really great game that I'm never getting rid of. I just think it's so solid. I enjoy it every time. Definitely an awesome game. On to my number 6 game of all time, coming in at number 23. That's Dutch Blitz. And so this is an interesting list. Like, I brought a lot of my favorite games. You can go check out my top 20 games of all time that I did, I don't even know when, some point in this year. Dutch Blitz is an incredible game. It's so fun. Honestly, it's only down here so low because we only played it once. And I think I wish I played it more. I wish I had played it with members of the cast. I only played it with Renee's parents, who were pretty slow. And generally, I have to give myself a handicap when that happens because I'm pretty fast. I just zippy. Pew, pew. So because of that, I think that's why it's lower. But I think that's also something that I think is interesting about these sorts of ranking lists. A game can overall be like an incredible experience, and sometimes it doesn't hit. Sometimes it really does hit, right? And depending upon when it hits and when it doesn't, that can change of how you feel of it. I have a few more that are games that are in my top 20, which don't make the top half of this list. And that's just because I wasn't feeling it for various reasons, which I'll talk about when I get to them. I think for this one, it was because the vibe wasn't the one of intensity that I particularly wanted. And so I didn't get everything out of it that I know I could or usually enjoy. And even if we had played it a few more times with that group, though, I think it would have been great. But my Renee's mom was practicing so much Dutch Blitz when, like, her and Renee and Paul were playing without me, because I was mostly in the city working and rehearsing and filming videos and working for WSBG. And so I didn't have a lot of spare time in the first couple months, for sure, trying to put on 2 shows, keep 3 videos a week being produced, as well as 1 video a week over on Dice Tower for WSBG, and then another video every 2 weeks over on Rado's channel, and then about a video a week over on WSBG's channel, just news updates and keeping up to date, and then making sure all my duties were tip-top and organizing and emailing. And yeah, I did only play 30 games. Well, it says 66, which is not bad. Not bad that I was able to cram in so many. But again, like little games, right? Like they buff the numbers in weird ways. Anyway, that was just a tangent so that you'd all be impressed and that you'd at least hit the friggin' like and subscribe button if you wouldn't mind, because I've been working very hard. And I would really just like to keep playing more games and stop all that other nonsense. Dutch Blitz is incredible. Go get a copy. I don't care that it's 23. Everyone should own a copy of this. I own 2. You can own 1. Pick either or. They're the same. One says expansion. Doesn't matter. Probably best to start with the expansion because somebody else will probably have the base game, and then you can mash them up for an ultra awesome 8-player game that didn't happen for me. On to number 22, we've got Coup. More like 20 Coup. Okay, I see why you aren't subscribing. I get it now. Coup is a fantastic game. We played it a little bit at lunch. We played it once at a party. I wanted to play this more at lunch, but I also am very cognizant about like not pushing board games too much and alienating people because I tend to do that. But honestly, if they don't want the board games pushed upon them, then they deserve to be alienated. Coup hits around 22 because it's good. It's so solid, but it didn't hit in the way that I wanted it to be. You know, I wanted it to be hit at the lunchtime game. I wanted everybody to be involved and so excited and requested every lunch, and it didn't happen. I think that makes me think that it was less successful. But Coup is just fantastic. I love Coup. Never getting rid of that ever. It is the pinnacle of bluffing games, and it is the bluffing game that kind of reigns supreme on most of the other lists. Spoiler alert, that my cast did. Moving along to 21, good old-fashioned Cribbage. Yeah, honestly, Cribbage could probably even go up 1 or 2. Crib is so fun. Like, in terms of a card game, a 2-person card game, at 3 people, it's garbage. Don't play it at 3 people. I played a lot of games at 3 people, and I hate it. But at 2 players, it's great. You get 6 cards. You then have to make a very simple calculation about which 2 cards go into your own crib. And that calculation is different if it's your opponent's crib, because you can't put points in there, because you don't want to give them points. You want to make sure they don't get points, and you get points. You then do some light probability on which card is the most likely to appear, and the risk and reward of creating runs and pairs and sets of cards that add up to 15. It's a great game. Love Cribbage. I'll play it anytime. And it's so relaxing to do when you're in Nova Scotia on a house by the water, right? That's where I learned Cribbage with my grandma, and that's where I played it this summer, and it was lovely. You know what, Cribbage? You're number 20. Cribbage, you've moved up to number 20. Keyflowers, you've just been demoted to number 21. Now, you know what, Cribbage? You just moved up again. You moved up to 19. Anyway, let's go back to 21. Keyflower is number 21, and this one, I love this game. It's my number 11 game of all time. I think it's so fantastic. I think as a 2-player game and a 6-player game, it can provide you a very comparable experience, and there are not many games out there that can do that. It scales so well at so many player counts. I brought it specifically because it can play at 6, and we did play it as a 6-player game. That's the game that we played. We played mostly a 6-player game, and then it was going so slowly that one of the people had to leave. And it became a 5-player game. So that was a weird adjustment to happen, and so having that weird adjustment didn't help. It's also a game that is really hard for new players to pick up, but it was great because most of the new players had their scores to be all around the same. I obviously won because I know the game and I know what tiles are coming out and I know what to prioritize, and as a new player, you never know that. This is a game that I stopped playing deliberately on Board Game Arena because I was getting to be too good at it. I think the skill gap here for new players and experienced players is incredibly severe because it's a bidding game, but if you don't know what's coming, you don't know what anything is worth if you're a newer player. And so you don't know what to spend and when to overspend and when not to. And I did, right? So a combo of the game running long, a player having to drop out, and all the other players, you know, not enjoying it as much. It doesn't really have a theme to grasp onto. However, it's just like, it's so good. It's so elegantly designed in terms of wherever you're sitting, that it's that side of the hexagon that you're going to be putting things on, and that represents your bid. So these blues right here belong to the same player that put this 1 green, right? And this player put 2 yellow, 1 red, and 1 yellow. Then you're also winning these tiles to put them into your own city where you can upgrade them for points, but somebody else can still put a person on it to use it. And if they know what color you don't have and they put that color person on your tile and you were planning on using that tile, then you can't. It's just got like such an interesting back and forth. It's such a solid game. But it was a weird play of it. So that's why it ends up being 21 for now. Number 20 is Wavelength, the preeminent party game that killed Codenames for me. I didn't even bother bringing Codenames as a party game. I have brought it in previous contracts. This one I didn't because I'm like, you know what? Wavelength is going to beat it out of the water. No questions asked. And it was a huge hit. It really was. If you haven't played Wavelength, it's an incredible party game. And the reason why it's better than Codenames is in Codenames, you have to wait to debrief and chat about the answers. The hidden... It's a very similar flow. One person's the clue giver, and then the team is the clue guessers, right? You're going to give a clue that relates to this range of things to try to get your team to put the dial on that spot. So in this instance, right, you're trying to give them a guess to give you 75% or 25% of whatever this clue is. But the benefit is once the round's over, you can then laugh and talk and say, oh, I was thinking this. Whereas in Codenames, you have to wait until the end of the full game in order to have that debrief. And it's just much better this way. More chatting, more participation, super solid party game. I just like meatier things better. Then we're number 19, which is Cribbage. Cribbage did beat it out because I'm very fond of Cribbage. I wanted to give it a shout out. Next up, on number 18, we have Dune Imperium. Dune Imperium is a game that, for me, has increased with every time that I've played it. This particular play was too slow. That's just what it was. It was too slow. It was a 4-hour game of Dune Imperium, and it does not need to be that long. We had some analysis paralysis around the table, and this was also coming off the backs of a too slow Keyflower game, right? And so I think that length really dragged it down, at least for me, because I feel the benefit of Dune Imperium is that it's like super snappy. And I don't mind taking time in games. I just found that in this game, the length kind of got to me. The number 1 game that's coming up, that is number 1, we took a very long time to play, and it felt okay with that length of time because everybody was on the same clock. But I think here, there was sort of a disparity between those clocks, and I think that sometimes can affect people. But Dune Imperium is really fun. Like, I do like it the more that I play. It's a weird picture of it when you think of it. I really like this combat aspect of when to push your stuff in. There was a lot of points that were won in the combat. There were some clever combat plays. I love these tech tracks that you can go up and down on. That's how I ended up pulling out the win, is that I had my focus was the tech tracks the entire time, and I had the card that gave me 2 points for being at level 3 on each tech track. So I was pretty happy about that. Basically, it's a worker placement game, but you can only place your workers if you have a card that has that particular symbol on it. And if you don't, then you can't go there. And sometimes that ruins all of your plans. Really solid game. Our number 18. Moving along to number 17, we have Raw. Raw has been such a hit for me. I love this game so much. It is a pure auction game. That's what it is. This new edition is so good by 25th Century Games. All you do is you draw a tile and you add it to the display, or you say Raw, and you get everybody to bid on that tile, on those tiles that are face up. It's super simple. That's it. And you get points for collecting different sets of tiles. But the way the points go back and forth, the tiles that you have for actual bidding purposes, some tiles are better than others. There's such an awesome, elegant flow to this game. Again, I think it's just a little bit lower here because I didn't feel like it was completely grasped by everybody. I played it, I think, with Renee's parents, and that was it. And so it got to a point. It's never great when, as an experienced player, you can get to a point where it's just you who gets to take turns, because then everybody else is not involved. And so that's what happened in the first age. Everybody spent their raw tokens and bid and collected the tokens early on, and then I was able to get a huge lead because my luck just held. And it's a push your luck game. Often this strategy has not worked for me. You can wait until everybody else has bid, and then you can just draw a full complement of tiles and scoop them all up for free, and then draw another full complement of tiles, scoop them up for free, etc. And that's what I did. And so that was exciting, but it's less exciting in a game where people like haven't grasped that that's a possibility, and then it just feels a bit weird and awkward. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm getting so many points and you can't do anything to stop me, and we're at the first round of the game, so let's play the other ones, right? It kind of sours the game a little, but it was still good. And Raw is still a fantastic, fun game. But that's why, again, how it cannot hit, right? I just trying to talk about my experiences and what can happen. And sometimes we focus so much on, hey, this game's amazing, like this game's gonna be so good, that we don't talk about the times when it's just fine. And I think having a just fine play of something that somebody hypes up a lot, and believe me, I've hyped up Raw like quite a bit over the last little while. If this was somebody's first experience with Raw, I'm like, it saddens me because I know how great this game is, and I know that not everybody got to see it in its true glory and beauty. And so that's what bums me out and puts it at 16. Or 17? 17. On to number 16, just shy of the top 50%. Sorry, Pat. It's Inish. This is my friend Pat, who ended up playing, who was in the previous video. It's his favorite game. I'm really, really happy that we got to play it. This is only the second time that I've ever played Inish, and absolutely love it. The best way to describe it is elegant. It's supremely elegant. You have all these different tiles. This is a map that will grow over time. And then you're drafting cards. You draft the cards that you can use for the round, and then you use those cards in the round to manipulate and maneuver your people on the board so that you fulfill one of the 3 win conditions. You're touching 6 little sanctuaries, just touching them, just in a province with them. So you could do that. You can have more force than 6 other people in specific provinces. If you do that, you're controlling them, you win. Or you can just be in 6 places on the map. Just be there. This is one that, like, I played with my friend Josh and Pat and Renee and, well, my former friend and now nemesis Josh. And he and I got into a big argument. We were like, Alliance? Alliance? And then he told Renee to attack me, and I didn't take kindly to that. So I wiped him off the face of the earth. And it soured it for him. But then we made another alliance, and then he betrayed me again, and then I wiped him off the face of the earth. I mean, that's just what happens, right? Also, I don't think Renee was enjoying it as much. She doesn't really like area control games other than Rising Sun, which has so much more going on than just area control. But so there were a number of factors that I don't think let Inish shine brightly as it possibly can, and that's why it's number 16. Still up pretty high, but also has that potential, right, to have these weird moments. And I'm sorry that it did have the weird moments because I really wanted Pat to just like get an awesome play of his favorite game. And I know what it's like when you don't get a awesome play of your favorite game. So I felt a bit bad about that too, that I don't think that I know the pinnacle of fun wasn't had in that one. Number 15 is a game called Oh Hell, or Screw Your Neighbor, or Stick the Dealer. It's a trick-taking game, or Wizard. If you played Wizard, that's another one. This was on my like top cottage games. This is a trick-taking game where you get more and more cards over the course of the game, and you have to bid how many tricks you're going to win. Twin Palms does this as well. I did a review on that when that came out. There's a lot of trick-taking games that do this, but I'm most familiar with it from Screw Your Neighbor, Stick the Dealer. I think it's a fantastic cottage game, fantastic card game to introduce and to play with people, because it doesn't matter if you have a bad hand. What matters is if you're able to recognize that it's a bad hand. And then having it so that they're a way for everybody to make their bid makes it exciting. And that's what Oh Hell does. Because someone will inevitably miss their target. And they'll say, oh hell. Fantastic card game. Sometimes it's just fun to play cards as well. Just standard cards. There's a lot you can do with a nice bicycle deck. Moving along to number 14, we have Hanabi. I love Hanabi. And honestly, this wasn't a great play of Hanabi. We only played once. We didn't do very well. But we played a 4-player game, and usually I play this with Renee, and Renee and I are so in sync of knowing what we're going to do because we've played so much. We know how the other person will act. We know kind of know what to prioritize. It's still a challenge, but we've now implemented all the extra challenges. And so when you're on that same level with someone, and then you throw in new people to the mix, I'm of the mind to never talk about those like conventions or things that you've learned beforehand, because that ruins the fun, right? You just have to try to feel out and hope that they'll learn and hope that they'll pick up on clues. And there were so many wasted clues. There's so much inefficiency going on. Someone was told that their card was red after I had already played the red one. Or no, I had the red one in my hand. I was given a clue that I had the red one and I would have played it. And then someone was like, hey, that's red. You better hold on to it. And it was a bad start. But still, Hanabi is such a wonderful game, super cheap. Really still enjoyed playing it. It's one of those games where the harder you fall, the more fun it can be. It's where if you enjoy keeping that reverse poker face going, something that you need in this game, or else it doesn't work. Then you're just cheating and saying, hey, you're holding the blue 4. Okay, I'll play the blue 4, right? It doesn't make it a challenge. What's exciting about these sorts of games is when you get them in spite of the challenges that you put on yourself, you then feel really good. Number 13 is my number 3 game of all time, Everdell. And yeah, it's number 13. And again, I think the reason why it is number 13 is because it can suffer from one player can just do a lot of stuff if they're experienced. So I played this with an awesome patron of mine who lives out in Nova Scotia. Shout out to Griffin and Aaron. And we played 2 games, and one of those games is higher up on this list. One of them is a new game. Of course, I like new games, and so they're naturally going to be up higher because I'm like, ooh, I haven't explored it to death yet. This one, I still believe I haven't explored to death, but this is one of those games where an experienced player can take a whole bunch more turns than other people. And so it was really weird because this is like the first time I've met these people in person. It was a weird feeling for me to be like, okay, you're both done. I have like 20 more turns to do. So let me just quickly do them. And luckily, like I'm familiar enough with the game that I had already planned those out and could see them out and really just tried to blaze through it quickly and not take up our time. But I always feel like that's a weird thing to have in a game. And so having that here, it felt weird rather than our other game when we all finished at the same time and added up points. You know what I mean? They had to wait for me to finish and then add up points and share our scores. And so it was just a weird feeling in that regard. Then that was the first time I clocked that. Also may not happen if you're used to gaming with people, the same people, and they can go get a snack or whatever. But I think it's also like Tapestry suffers from this. Any game that suffers from this, it's kind of exciting, but it's also kind of a bit weird. And so that's why Everdell is number 13. Not that it wasn't a fun play or that I didn't enjoy my time playing it, but because of that potential, right? And that potential feeling. It's a phenomenal game. I'll play this game any day of the week. But this one, it just was number 13. Something that I enjoyed more was Verdant at number 12. I got sent this for review. There's a review up on my channel. I enjoyed this partly because everybody who I played it with also really enjoyed it and wanted to actively play it again. I think that's the mark of a really fun game. And that's always going to impact my personal experience. It's tough as a reviewer because you want to really separate yourself from the people who you play it with and just analyze the game based on its own merits. And so you can have a really good game that could shine with other people that doesn't shine for you. And if that's the only thing that you consider because of the people who you're playing with or because of the environment or whatever the extenuating factors are, that's not a good reason to bring a game's like score down. It's not a good reason to bring a game's score up. But I did really enjoy my plays of Verdant because everybody was having a good time. This is another one where I played with my parents. They were super slow, but I didn't mind all that much because I could see them being so engaged with it, right? And it was lovely. It was lovely to play. I had no complaints. They all wanted to play it again. And that's for sure why it's definitely higher up in my esteem. For me, I liked it. I like it better than Cascadia. And I give it a seal of approval in the review. I think I gave it like a 4 out of 5. Probably a 4 out of 5. I'm starting to do scores now because I feel like that's better. And then that way I can say games are good without just giving them the seal of approval. That's really the reason. But yeah, Verdant, solid game. Go check out the review if you want to know more about that. Number 11 is Too Many Bones Unbreakable. Just shy of top 10. Too Many Bones. This one was pretty low on Pat's list, and I was a bit bummed that it was, but I can see why. I think I already know. I need to play it a little bit more, but I already know that I think Undertow is the better version of Too Many Bones in terms of the standalone. I've played the base game. Well, I've played with the base game characters, but I used my own Undertow characters, I think. I think when I was doing the review for Undertow, that's what I was doing. And so in this one, Gale was kind of meh. Gale was kind of a boring Gearlock to play. Figment seemed cool. I'm excited to play as Figment. I've only played as Gale so far. But Gale was kind of boring, and I expected more. And the lava mechanic was interesting, but I think I liked the tentacles and the ship a little bit more as well. So it kind of shone a light on the other stuff that I liked more, but it was still fun. Like, it's still fun to chuck some dice. Leveling up your stats is always fun. And the encounters themselves were pretty fun as well. There was one little flicky encounter that I wasn't expecting, and that was joyous to play. But yeah, I think I like Undertow better, and so that's what made this one a little bit lower. But still managed to be number 11. That's pretty good. Honestly, it could go down to number 16. That's how close these are. It could have bumped Inish into top 15, depending upon, I don't know, how I feel in the next hour, really. Too Many Bones, solid game. Very fun. Number 10. Is it number 10? I love Shuffleboard. Yeah, but it's number 10. This is a testament to the great games that we played. In Halifax, where I was for the summer, there's a bar called the Resolutes Club, and they've got a shuffleboard table. And I've loved this shuffleboard table longer than I've loved Renee. It's the truth, since 2012, when I first found it. It's a beautiful shuffleboard table. You start at one end, and you throw a little stone to the other end. It's like curling, but on a board. You can do it while you're drinking. It's fantastic. You get 1 point if it's in this section. Ignore the triangle for now. You get 2 points if it's in that section, 3 points if it's in the next section, and if it's hanging off the edge and you can flick it, well, then that's worth 4 points. Played at 21 points. That's it. It's a fantastic game. The best bar game, bar none. Beats darts and pool out of the water, and I'm so happy that we got to go out and play some shuffleboard at Resolutes. We also played another game at Resolutes too, which I finally have sleeves for. Sleeves? Chris George? Yes, I do. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Number 9 is Endless Winter, making the top 10. Number 9 is Endless Winter. I also put out a review for that over the summer. Have definitely enjoyed Endless Winter. It kind of cemented itself as an enjoyable game over the summer. I really liked it with 4 players. I liked it more with 4 than with 2 people. And it was one of those that like kind of kicked off our game day. I played this and City of the Great Machine, which is upcoming. It was just such like a lovely day. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful day. It took us 4 hours to play both games. Again, these games probably shouldn't take that long, but I didn't care. Everybody was involved. Well, that was including the teach, and I had to teach basically every board game mechanic in existence because that's what's in this game to those who had never really played board games before. But yeah, you can check out my review for a further explanation of how to play. Basically, it's every single mechanic you could think of, and then another one. Try to get the most points, you win. But it was just a lovely, lovely game, lovely people. I really felt like I got a taste of every mechanic in this one too, whereas in other games I have neglected some of them and still felt fine. So that's number 9. Number 8, which honestly I want it to be higher. But 8 is really good on this list. Like 8 is so good that it has taken out so many other games. This is a game that I had never heard of, and I think that's why it's so high, because I'm so delighted in its discovery. This is a game called the Uzzle. You compete to see who will finish the Uzzle first. No reviews. No how to plays. Oh, ripoff of Match Madness. Oh no. Is this better? I'm gonna have to look into this. This is the exact same game. That's what the Board Game Geek forums are all about. This is literally the exact same game. Match Madness and the Uzzle are exactly the same. I don't know which one came first, the Match Madness or the Azul. Oh, Match Madness did, 2016. Yeah, that looks exactly the same. I don't remember, but I felt the quality of the game was pretty good too. But I'm gonna go to Match Madness, I guess, because it's got better pictures. Now I feel bad that I've rated it so highly, but hey, so get either Match Madness or the Uzzle. I don't know. Basically, everybody gets a set of these blocks, 1 to 5. They're all the same. And then you're going to flip over one of these cards. They have different rankings on them, 1 to 5, which is like, they don't matter. You can do a number of scoring. Basically, you flip over a card, whoever makes that pattern the fastest wins. But these are 4-sided, and there's often duplicates on each side. So sometimes you have one in the right place, and you're like, okay, now I can't find the other thing, and you have to really rearrange things. It was just a heck of a lot of fun. It was good. I mean, like, it feels, we played it with Renee's father and stepmom, I guess, who we play less games with and who have less of a threshold for me forcing random games upon them. And so Renee's dad actually had this in their house and pulled it out, and I was blown away. Like, I was blown away at how fun this actually was, that you can just sit down and play quickly. I had to go to start a show, and I was almost late because I was like, nah, let's just finish the stack, because I was having so much fun with it. So I had a super great time with it. You can find the Uzzle on Amazon, or now look for Match Madness, I guess. But yeah, I felt like I was discovering a lost treasure of gold, so that's why it's number 8. Number 7 is something my friend Rachel taught me. This is the first time I'd played it, and man, oh man, is it good. Hero Realms is such a lovely, fun 1 versus 1 deck builder. That's what it is. There's going to be a market of cards. There are all these different cards that'll come up. You buy them, you try to chain them together, and you try to punch your opponent in the face. But it's just like such a great deck building experience in a small box. We played this at lunch one day. It took us like half an hour to explain it and to play it. Maybe 40 minutes, I don't know. Great lunchtime game, really good head-to-head card battling game that involves deck building. Some of the cards feel a bit overpowered because they can stick around, and then you have to punch that card before taking out your opponent, and then it just kind of cycles through the deck again, so you're gonna have to fight them again. And so balancing fighting the extra monsters versus getting new monsters into your deck is fun. And then I also like that there's 4 colors, and all those colors interact really well with each other. So the deck building is fairly simple. You're like, okay, I guess I'm going red this time, or I'm going blue this time, right? Oh, but that red one feels like it could interact well with my deck, but then I give up some synergy or some potential synergy with probability, because some things are like, hey, if you've played another green one, you get to activate this ability, right? It's got all that deck building goodness in it. Sorry, I just had to call an audible and change some things around. But yeah, fantastic deck building goodness. I want a copy, and that should tell you how good it is. Moving along to number 6, just outside of the top 5, I moved some things around because this is how I feel. We have Food Chain Magnate. This is great. I have Food Chain Magnate. I also have the expansion, which I haven't played. And so, and I hadn't played Food Chain Magnate. So this is the first time I ever played Food Chain Magnate because the costume designer, her partner, is also a big gamer. And so I looked at their shelf and I saw, and I'm very proud about this, I was able to really earn my board game YouTube channel stripes. I saw this on the shelf. And I was going through a picture of his shelf and I was looking. And he had Brass Birmingham and he had Raw and that sort of stuff. I was like very excited. And I saw that and I said, oh yeah, Food Chain Magnate. And everyone was really blown away because I just got it from all the little writing of text. I'm like, I've seen that box before. I think it's Food Chain Magnate. So that was exciting. And then I said, well, I would love for you to teach me that because I haven't played it yet. And so it was taught. And this is a game that I'm so excited to play again. I wasn't sure. It's my first Splotter game. I wasn't sure how much it would resonate with me. I kind of always turn my nose up because I know Splotter is a little bit more expensive for what you get. But having played it, it might be worth it, really. There are other games that also have this price point that are less expensive. Food Chain Magnate, you're going to be running a food chain empire. And this is one of the most important images that you'll see. This shows you all the tech trees at which you can level up your people. And that's important because that's what this game's all about. You're going to have a number of different cards and you're going to level them all up. And then also you're going to compete over getting these milestones. So there's two things. You start out with a CEO with 3 card slots. And then the more cards you get, the more different management trainees and people you need to have in order to train them. But the more people you have, the more you have to pay them, the more that they cost if you're hiring them on staff. Or you can have them on the beach, and then you can upgrade them into better abilities. But the crux of this game, which needs to be emphasized to anyone who is playing it for the first time, are these milestones. These milestones are often, I wish that there was a picture of them. Here's a little bit of a picture of them. That is a simple solution for tracking milestones as well. You just get some tokens and you put them on there. That's a great idea. And then you don't need to use the copious amounts of cards. These happen when you're the first player to do something, and they kind of define your strategy. And so I had Food Chain Magnate up at 3, and then I dropped it down to 6 just now because of how swingy these milestones feel, and because, again, of that barrier to entry for newer players. This time I was on the other foot, and we were playing against somebody who was experienced and who knew the value of these milestones and was like, okay, I'm going for them right away. And we kind of stumbled a little bit. And in other games, there's enough of a learning gap or a learning curve that you can stumble in the first turns and you'll be fine. In this one, if you stumble in the first turns, somebody's already claimed this milestone, which will be the basis of their strategy. And if you get there even a turn later, you're not going to have that benefit. And so that's really tricky to come back from in terms of that new player feeling. And so it's also hard to guide players into these. You can say, hey, the milestones are important, but you don't really see how important they are until like at least 20% into the game. And by then, it's pretty much too late. All the milestones are going to be assigned to whoever they've been assigned to, and you just kind of have to play and figure it out. It was higher, though, because my friend Drew just had a strip club. That's what it was. It was a strip club. He had a bunch of waitresses that were getting tipped $5 a round, and he never served a single piece of food or drink. I don't know what the waitresses were getting tipped for, but I think we do now. But yeah, it's a fantastic game. Really fantastic. Can't wait to play again. I was surprised at how simple it was to pick up, and I was also surprised that it's really tech trees. It's all about tech trees. So if you like that, then maybe you should look into it. That was number 6. Number 5 is Rococo. I've been adoring Rococo ever since I picked it up, or was gifted it rather. Rococo is kind of deck building-esque, hand management style game. You're going to have these different cards which can construct you dresses, or if they're the friggin' apprentice, they can't construct you dresses. You want to construct the most dresses and send them into St. Louis' ball, or you can sell those dresses and get a whole bunch of money, but then you won't get the prestige. You want to have the most prestige at the end of the game. To win, I've just been really enjoying this one. There will be a review of this coming out on the channel, so stay tuned for that if you want to hear more thoughts about Rococo. But I gotta wrap this up because we've been talking for a while, but that's how most of these videos always go. I appreciate being here. Yeah, you can do kind of 6 things on your turn, but it's all revolving around building dresses. And the cool thing is anytime you get a card, it goes directly into your hand. And so there's a lovely flow of, do I go for a card engine or do I not? Because of the fewer cards I have, the more cycle of the cards that I'll see as I go through. Or do I just dismiss all my other cards, but that costs me actions, and maybe I can use those actions to be making beautiful dresses and petticoats. So that's number 5. Rococo is so solid. I played this just with Renee, and I wish I had gotten to play it a little bit more. Number 4 is City of the Great Machine. I had such a great time. This was number 6. Rococo also dropped, but the more I thought about it, I had such an awesome time. I still need to play this a little bit more, and there will be a review on this on the channel soon, but I had a fantastic time. I played this with Pat, Zach, and Ariel as our second game in the Endless Winter. No, our first game in the Endless Winter game day. We had City of the Great Machine, and then we had that. And I was playing as the Great Machine. Here's a few things that I love about it. In the rulebook, it says you cannot refer to each other by your own names. You must refer to each other by your character names or the Great Machine or the Revolutionaries. I just think that sort of silliness is so much fun. And I love here, too, it's up to the Revolutionaries to be running around trying to discover which citizens are on their side and which citizens are imposters and getting them ready for revolution. And it's up to the Great Machine to move guards around to make it harder for them to move. Basically, you're whittling down their resources and trying to predict where they go, because if you do predict where they go, you can drop a raid, and if they walk into the spot, they get captured. And either you get a point, one more step towards your master plan being realized, or you just get to cancel their whole turn and say, no, I know what you were going to do there, and I don't want it to happen. You're in jail. And you take all their money. It's such a fun game, and it's also a super fun game to watch because it's a 1 versus all game, to watch the other team try to communicate and indicate where they're going to go without giving you information, because you can't whisper. You're all at the same table. The Great Machine is always watching. I just think it's just fantastic. I don't know how it'll play at 2. That's what I want to figure out before the review. But at 4 players, oh yeah, so good. Number 3, moving on to our top 3. Number 3 has got to be Avalon. I contemplated with Avalon. Avalon was pretty high on all of my friends' lists as well. We had some really great games of Avalon. Everybody stuck to it. It is the most played game over the summer, although One Night Werewolf is probably the most played if we're talking about rounds being games. But it was the most played game. We played this at bars. I sleeved the cards so that now I can play it anywhere. It just hit. It hit with pretty much everybody who played it. And I think, actually, I probably can check. 17 different players played it over the course of the summer. 17 people played Avalon, and all of them really enjoyed it. Or maybe one didn't, but you know what? They're dead to me, and I don't even know their name anymore. Avalon is such a good game. It's like Werewolf, but better, because everybody's always engaged. Good, same story. Good team, bad team. Good team doesn't know anything. Bad team know who each other are. They're trying to blend in, pretend to be good. Then you're going on quests, putting in successes or fails. Fails if you're bad. Or maybe you're putting in a success if you're bad and blending in and tricking people. It's fantastic. This is the big box edition, which you absolutely don't need. You just need the Resistance Avalon. Nope. The Resistance Avalon, which you can get for real at a store, or probably for counterfeit. I don't know. It could be real. I just want it to be real. I think it's counterfeit. Or for counterfeit on Temu. One of them. Or you can just do it with regular playing cards, because that works too, and have a thumb that goes up and down. You don't even need it. But it's a fantastic game. Everybody had a great time. So happy I got so many plays in it and that people took to it. Number 2 is a game that is new to me, and this is probably why it is so high, but it had to be this high because I've now been playing it. I've played like 2 or 3 games on Board Game Arena. I mean, I don't have time to be playing a bajillion of it, but that's A Feast for Odin. Again, shout out to Griffin and Aaron. They taught it to me, and it's a friggin' blast. It might be my favorite Uwe. I think it might be my favorite Uwe Rosenberg, like already. I know I want a copy. I hope that more people will enjoy it. Basically, everybody has their own little player board here, and you're taking these polyominoes and you're putting it on that player board to both increase income, which give you little coins, which you can put in various spaces, and to cover up these negative point spots. There are so many negatives that you start with at the beginning of the round. But when you cover them up, that's how you get points. You can also get new lands, which give you more negatives, but more spaces to fill. You can get differently shaped stuff over here. You can raid, you can trade, you can have it made in the shade. And the coolest part, I think, is deciding what actions to do, because there's so many worker placement spots, but some cost you 1 worker, and some cost you 4 workers. Obviously, the 4 workers are better, but finding that balance of allocating your workers, sure, you have 6 workers, but that could give you a 4 and a 2, or it could give you 6 ones. And so figuring out and optimizing where you should go and where you should place these workers and what you should do with them is pretty neat. And the number of different pathways feels very expansive. So I'm excited to explore this further. I'm excited to get a copy, honestly. And it really blew me out of the water. Again, earning its spot in BGG's top 100. Both it and Food Chain Magnate. Really great. And then finally, and I thought Feast for Odin might be number 1, but I reflected, and I think I was thinking, if I'm talking about the grounds of the particular play, like the one play that I did of this game, I still think it comes out on top because it was a really good game. My number 1 is my number 1 game of all time, Rising Sun. I didn't expect Rising Sun to actually be number 1 here. I didn't expect going into this ranking, but then I was thinking about how fun it was. We played a 4-player game. We had Sun Clan, Turtle Clan, Fox Clan, and Bonsai Clan. I was Bonsai Clan. The Sun Clan dominated in the first round. It was such a good, it was like a masterclass of using the Sun Clan. Pat friggin' killed it. And then myself, Rachel, and Zach had to team up and put Pat down, just verbally put him down over the course of the game, so his confidence was shattered, and so that he wasn't having any fun. That's what we had to do. We had to do it for the sake of the game. We had to do it. And yeah, there was a big team up, and then Rachel and I were able to come back, and then it was such a close game. The final score, the top 2 was 82 and 79, and I ended up coming out on top, but I really probably shouldn't have. It was mainly due lack of experience with the game, but we played for 5 hours. We took a break, did a show, came back, and finished the game, and it was just such a fun thing. And I think that break actually really helped cement it in a lot of people. That they enjoyed it a ton because of that, because it kind of gave them a refresh and let things settle, and then they were able to come back with fresh eyes. So it was almost like playing a second game in that final round after taking that large break. And so it was a blast. Rising Sun is an incredible game. I've talked about it a lot on this channel, and it was a particularly enjoyable game to just see the ebbs and flows of people's strategy and how they all came to be. It was a really cool back and forth, and I think really represented the game well, and I know everybody had a great time. So I feel comfortable putting it as my favorite game that I played over the summer because it is my favorite game, and I got to play a really good game of my favorite game. Obviously, that's going to be number 1. So that's it. Those are the 30 games that I played over the summer. Maybe I missed some, maybe I didn't, but those are my rankings. Again, I would be happy to play any of those games, maybe other than Skip-Bo, right now. I would. I think they're all fantastic. Well, I think they're all very good, and I think some of them are fantastic. And I just had a really good time. So would recommend, definitely, most of the games on this list. Regardless of where they landed, I think of the games on this list, probably worth playing, other than Skip-Bo. Even Tiny Towns, I think it's worth playing. A good selection. Anyway, let me know. Let me know in the comments what your favorite games are that you've been playing within the last couple months. I'm thrilled to be able to reflect on it and see that I was able to play a bunch of games because I was worried that I wasn't playing enough over the summer. I'm always worried I'm not playing enough. I'm always worried, especially when I'm not playing enough new games. Oh, I should mention, this leaves out games that I learned on Board Game Arena. I also learned Beyond the Sun and Lost Ruins of Arnak. Played some Anachrony and Arc Nova and A Feast for Odin on Board Game Arena as well. And a Game of Seasons or something, because if I'm on Board Game Arena, I'm probably playing a Game of Seasons just quickly in between some stuff. But I didn't include those on the list because I like when I track my stats, I only tend to include games that I play physically. And so those are the ones that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you've been playing and enjoying. I'm always so stressed. I feel I have been aggressively consuming new games over the last 2 years since starting this YouTube channel. And whenever I get a couple months where I'm busy and I'm not playing as many, it's very stressful to me because I feel like I'm falling behind and falling behind on being able to talk and recommend and consult on them. It's not even for my own enjoyment. It's literally like, hey, I need to know this because I want to be that resource for you all. So hopefully this was, I guess, helpful, or seeing a selection of games that I played and actually did get to the table. And I tried to prioritize games that I thought would hit, right? because I brought a few other games that I should have been playing for review purposes, and I decided not to subject the newer players to them because I didn't think that they would hit very well. And I wanted them to enjoy themselves, and I wanted to share the board gaming hobby. So those were kind of my goals over the summer. Let me know if you played anything new. Let me know if you liked some things on this list or not. If you've had plays that weren't so good of some of these games, let me know. And I'll tell you if it's worth another shot if you describe your experience. Because sometimes, like, you just don't like something, but sometimes it just doesn't hit, but it could. So maybe it's worth a second chance. I don't know. Anyway, what I do know is I'm grateful that you are here. Thanks for watching. My name's Chris George, and I also know I don't have a catchphrase. And I also know that I've let you all down because of it. And I also know that we will never recover from this betrayal. But I also know you're generally nice people. So maybe I can get a pass. Just this one time.